Hello everyone, and welcome to this webinar on 6 common data center problems and how DCIM solves them. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to attend, and a special thank you to our partner AIT for inviting us all here today. My name is Julia Sine. I'm Sunbird Software's Content Marketing Manager and your moderator for this session. With me today is James Serwinski, Sunbird's Director of Product Marketing. Now a little bit about Sunbird. Sunbird software is changing the way data centers are being managed. Serving over 1,000 customers worldwide, we're on a mission to radically simplify data center management with elegant data center infrastructure management, DCIM, software. We help data center managers solve the problems in their data centers faster and more efficiently than ever before, while improving uptime and boosting productivity. So what exactly is DCIM software? Well, you'll learn the answer to that question and more as we explore 6 common data center problems, followed by a demonstration of common DCIM use cases to see just how DCIM can help, and finally a Q&A session. Now just a little housekeeping before we get started. If you have any questions during the presentation, simply type your questions into the questions box in your GoToWebinar control panel. We'll try to cover as many questions as possible during the presentation as time allows, and of course we'll have that brief Q&A session at the end. This webinar is being recorded, and we'll let you know when the recording is available. And finally, if you'd like any more information on anything covered during today's webinar, just let us know and we'll be happy to set up a meeting for you. Now a little bit on today's speaker, James Serwinski. James Serwinski is the Director of Product Marketing at Sunbird. He's designed mission-critical management systems for over 20 years and holds a patent for detecting whether a server has shut down gracefully. And a little fun fact about James, he was a Division I baseball pitcher in college. And now we're moving on to 6 common data center problems. For anyone just joining us for the webinar now, welcome. And now I'll turn it over to James.
Thank you, Julia. So let's begin. 6 common data center problems. Let's first start with just a high-level picture. 451 Group Research is a major industry research firm that focuses on data center management. And quite simply, they say that data center infrastructure management systems collect and manage information about data center assets, resources, and operational statuses. And that DCIM tools that provide meaningful information about IT and facilities help data center operators make informed strategic decisions about the resources that they have at their disposal, such as space, power, cooling, connection, and people, so that they can maximize uptime and drive efficiency throughout the data center. So let's start with our first problem. Many of my customers tell us that cooling still remains the biggest problem within the data center. Increasing IT density and therefore power draw and heat production presents the biggest problem for them. And heat can cause many problems within the data center. It can cause downtime, drive up energy costs. And one of the main solutions that the DCIM solution provides is the ability to understand your environmental conditions so that you can monitor and identify hotspots and resolve them before they become problems. And so this is something that I'll go through my demo scenario to show you how that is done with the DCIM solution. The second major problem that data center professionals tell us that they have is power capacity planning. Data centers are designed to run business services. These services are critical to the business operation, and data center planners need to ensure that they have enough data center resources on hand to roll out new equipment, new hardware, to host new services that businesses want to roll out. And so, again, in that idea of if I have a lot of resources available, I can always improve uptime, roll out services very fast, but then I want to be efficient. So I want to have just-in-time resources, just enough. And the DCIM solution allows you to understand exactly how much capacity you have in terms of space, power, cooling, and connections, and when you'll run out. And the when you run out comes from the ability to forecast capacity. So some DCIM solutions can only tell you what you have today, but provide you no visibility as to your past history and how that relates to future consumption of your available resources. So I'll demonstrate today how with data center instrumentation, such as intelligent rack PDUs, branch circuit monitoring systems, that you can instrument your data center, collect all your power and environmental information over a long period of time, and project future trends and how that will impact your data center in terms of hotspots, but also, and equally important, in terms of capacity consumption. So to answer that question that often data center planners are asked is, when will I run out of power capacity? And a good DCIM solution will tell you that very precisely. Other data center operators tell me they have many users, many customers of their data center, whether this is a co-location or whether you're an owner-operated data center and have a lot of internal customers for your data center. And pre-DCIM age, the users would contact the data center professionals. I need to find this asset. I need to get attribute information about this asset. How much CPU it has, how much RAM it has, when does maintenance expire, how many of those types of makes and models do I have, and can we save money if we negotiate a better maintenance contract in bulk or replace them to the latest generation of that make and model. And so with our demonstration, I'll show you how easy it is to locate assets in your data center and find the attributes that you're looking for. How do I keep my asset information accurate? Well, the best way to keep your information accurate is to ensure you'll have operational procedures that you use the DCIM solution to plan out your add, moves, and changes. So don't just deploy equipment and then try to track it after the fact. Use the DCIM solution to design out your add, moves, and changes. Look at the impact to the resources. Use the tool to provide the best location to deploy your resources. And if you do that in a more proactive way, then all your add, moves, and changes, once you're ready to say install it, you merely click, issue a visualized work order for the rack it and stack it team to go out and deploy that equipment exactly where you've placed. In addition, once you have good processes in place, you need to also make it a little fun and easy for your data center professionals to ensure accuracy. And so more and more data centers have equipped their staff with either smartphones or tablets where they can walk the data center floor, easily audit cabinet by cabinet, and make updates to ensure accurate information on the fly. Also, by allowing it to be updated where you can make your add, moves, and changes from your mobile device, you can easily ensure that your data center professionals are motivated to adopt the tool, and tool adoption is a key to DCIM success. back to the concept that your data center is built, designed, and operated to run business-critical services, such as if you're a financial institution, online banking, or credit card processing. Maximizing uptime remains the main objective of all data center professionals. So that is always job one, complemented by increasing efficiency throughout the data center. So a DCIM tool should focus heavily on maximizing uptime by mitigating risk. And so a good DCIM solution is purpose-designed to understand typical data center configurations and do simulations and what-if analysis to ensure uptime. And I'll demonstrate an example of failover simulation, so how you can, on a regular basis, automatically create simulations that generate reports that give you on a daily or weekly basis positive confirmation that all your cabinets would survive a failover from one power chain to the other. And with that, I'll go to a demonstration. And we'll make this as interactive as possible, so feel free to ask questions throughout the demonstration. And I'll pause here for Julia if she has any questions queued up so far.
Thank you, James. We do have a couple of quick questions. The first one is, I can understand how this would be useful for a fairly large data center with thousands of racks, but what if I only have, say, 50 racks or so, or even just a small room?
That's a great question. And when you think about value, value is benefit divided by cost. And so when you look at the size, we have customers that have thousands of racks, and the cost to buy and deploy a DCIM across thousands of racks is X, and the benefit is Y. If you only have 50 racks, but aspire to be the best data center professional you can be, you can have the same management infrastructure, same management processes and best practices implemented in your data center, operate it to maximize uptime, drive efficiency, but because licenses is based upon racks, your cost of acquiring the DCIM is a fraction of X because it's based upon how many cabinets. So, it's maybe 5% or less for the license, and 50 racks is a nice size data center where it's just a little bit too big to walk the data center aisles to hunt and peck for capacity, but yet it's of a size that you can easily audit, enter the information into the DCIM, and then leverage it on an ongoing basis. So the value, while maybe not equal to that of a British Airways or a Comcast that might have thousands of racks, the value is less, yes, but it's divided by a much smaller cost. So customers with 50 cabinets still want to maintain uptime and want to have rich visualization of hotspots and capacity planning, and I'll highlight that as we go through the demonstration. What's the next question, Julia?
Okay, and our next question is, so I've been using Excel spreadsheets and sometimes Google spreadsheets, for example, to manage the assets in my data center, and it's been working well enough, perhaps not great. How much effort and work would it be to transfer all of that information into a DCIM solution?
That's another good question. Our DCIM solution is designed to allow you to import your Excel spreadsheet. So just imagine it's a spreadsheet processing machine. If you have your assets and connections in spreadsheets, you easily upload them to our solution. The solution digests it, puts it in a SQL database, and allows it to be leveraged by your full team with our great visualization. We also have open APIs if you like to script various routines to migrate data or automatically update data. So we have some customers that have developed scripts that, based upon changes or something that they do in another system, automatically populates the DCIM solution.
Okay, great, James. Thank you. Those are the questions we have for now.
Thank you, Julia. And so let's start with the first problem. I'm worried about cooling, and I'm concerned about hotspots. So I want to know, do I have any hotspots right now? If I have them, how have they formed, and how can I prevent them? And so I'll just start with a patented cooling chart that we have. And so our patented cooling chart allows for the display of data centers with 50 racks, for example, or data centers with 10,000 racks. You can easily display all the environmental sensor information on a psychrometric chart within the ASHRAE envelope that defines the proper operating conditions for air coming into the inlet side of a cabinet and cooling IT equipment. And so here in blue is the ASHRAE defined range, and any cabinets that are within that range show up as green, and you can mouse over and see the temperature, humidity, and location. Cabinets that are outside of that range, but yet within the ASHRAE allowable range to allow you to leverage such new techniques as free cooling, are highlighted in yellow with the additional non-conformance explanation, such as too hot and too dry for sensors that are in this area. Sensors that are in this area are just too hot. If the sensor was over here, it would be too damp and might create corrosion. And over here is too cold, and you're just wasting energy. Our dashboard is highly user configurable, where with one click you can adjust what ASHRAE range you're leveraging, 2004, 2011, what allowable ranges you want, whether you want to focus on inlet temperature or cold aisle, outlet or hot aisle, or outside air, or define your own envelope based upon your own parameters. The data can be exported for analysis, and we provide easy metrics that help you understand your conformance index, meaning out of all my cabinets, how many are in conformance with ASHRAE's recommended range, and how much energy I could potentially save. Clearly, I have some cabinets that are too hot, so I have a cooling problem, and we'd rather you address that first before you go about trying to save energy. So this gives you an at-a-moment view of how your environment is in terms of cooling. Then, since I do have some hot spots, I want to understand my thermal parameters maybe in a more granular level. And so I look at my data center in 3D with full contents. I pull up a report that allows me to look at temperature per cabinet front, so the inlet cold aisle, and now I have a view of my cabinets where cabinet by cabinet temperature, easy visualization where cabinets in red are hotter than my user configurable thresholds, cabinets in blue are colder than my user configurable thresholds. What I really would like is cabinets in green, which are in the sweet spot. I apologize, these readings are in Fahrenheit, but this is easily switchable to Celsius. And so what you then might want to do is play a thermal map to understand the change in temperature over time, either month by month, day by day, or hour by hour, which allows you to easily see hotspot formation and potentially identify the root cause. Once you have this bird's eye view of your data center in terms of cooling, you might want to then, assuming you don't want to get a deeper view, isolate on an individual row and allow you to look at an individual row as if you're in front of it with the sensor readings from your instrumentation overlaid. And so I can look at the front, the back, look at the actual power load, and look at the individual temperature and humidity sensors with high fidelity front and back images from our models library. I can mouse over each device and get the device name, make, and model and status. So that covers, yes.
We have a quick question about where the images for the devices in these cabinets come from.
Okay, great. We provide an advanced models library with over 30,000 models that include high fidelity front and back images and all the attributes required for adding a piece of equipment. And so that's a good segue to capacity planning. So if I was to go and look at capacity, since you have all your assets loaded in the system, if you want to do a capacity search, you just select the site that you're searching, enter make, such as HP, DL380, and what you are presented with is our models library of items. And so I'll select a model, and from our models library comes the front and back image, also pre-configured data connectivity ports, and power specifications, including the quantity of power supplies, power supply ratings, and the redundancy that you want configured. And it's as easy as clicking search for a cabinet to find available cabinets that meet that criteria. Now I have a list of cabinets that meet the criteria that could accept this device, and I can easily then filter or search based upon parameters that I think are most important. So I might want to look for the cabinet with the most available power. And so that's cabinet BJ. And then I look at the number of available ports. There's a lot of available ports. I can look at what group. I could sort or filter on that. And then if I want to know, well, it's got 48 power ports, but maybe I want to know exactly what type of power ports because it matters, I click and get a listing of that. So that's intelligent capacity search and place, where you've given a list of devices to deploy. But if we're looking and thinking about capacity, let's think about it in additional ways. So if I was to look at capacity, there are many other ways to look at it. And so if I was to go back to my dashboard view, and I can have in 3 dimensions views of my data center in terms of capacity, in terms of available space, in terms of available power, and in terms of available cooling, all of this in 3 dimensions with details listed here on the left with the ability to zoom in. So this gives me an at-a-glance view of my capacities. So then when I think about capacities, we're thinking about the intersection of capacities and health. because remember, the number one criteria is to continue to maintain uptime. And so a good DCIM dashboard, you want to have an at-a-glance view of your environment with the combination of values that allow you to understand the health and capacities of each room, each data center, or each data hall. So for example, I'm here looking at my environment as a director of data centers, and I look and I see my London data center, and you see the data is dynamically updated, and I see that I have 7 critical alerts for this data center. I see my capacity is 10 kilowatts, and my load is 4 kilowatts, so I've got only 40% used. I have 6 staff on site, but I could click and drill down to get a tighter view of this cabinet. And so now I'm in my London data center, and I have an at-a-glance view of the cabinets that I have visibility to. So that's another attribute of the DCIM that you want, is granular permissions. So in this particular case, anything that I'm not able to manage or see is grayed out, but what I can manage and see are 3 cabinets that are green and healthy, 1 cabinet, which is rack R1, which is in critical condition. And it's not in critical condition because of power capacity. It's actually only 40% utilized, but I can look at the environmental conditions in terms of the sensors within that cabinet in degrees Celsius, and I notice that it's actually below its humidity threshold, which creates a dry condition which could cause static electrical discharge. So from here, I can then further click and drill down to this cabinet and get a specific capacity view of this cabinet to help unleash stranded power capacity. So now I have a view of this rack in terms of the active power that is being consumed, in terms of the capacity, and easily understand how much capacity is stranded that I could take advantage of.
James?
Yes.
We have a quick question on the models library.
Okay.
What if the device isn't in your library? Can the user create it themselves?
Absolutely. We try to empower you as much as possible. We update our models library very frequently, and you just have to email us the request, and we turn it around in a matter of a short period of time. But you have the ability to take any model in our library, clone it, so you duplicate it, and then just make the adjustments to make it that unique model that you want. So if you have 6 variations of the same model, you would clone it 5 times and make those minor adjustments and save it and put it in your model's library so that when updates come from us, we don't overwrite that. You also have the ability to just import your own images, import your own attributes, and create a totally new model from scratch, and customers have done that. Further drilling down to the cabinet, once I'm looking at the cabinet loads and measured values, now I can look rack PDU by rack PDU in a true side-by-side analysis, outlet to outlet, as well as look at line charts that reveal my power consumption relative to breaker rating. So here is what is the load on my input core to my rack PDU, and how does that compare to my breaker, which is defined as 22, 23, 24, or in this case, breakers 1, 2, and 3. And so you have an easy at-a-glance view where this upper purple line here represents the capacity at 4.8 amps, and this blue line represents the actual load at 2.54 amps. So in both cases, I have a lot of capacity within this cabinet, which is good because that's what I previously said based upon the higher level view, but now I'm seeing on a PDU by PDU side, and now I see the events here and what is going on, and clearly see that humidity is too low, but I also can see what changes have gone on recently. Seems like outlets have been turned on, and so maybe this increased load has caused the fans to move more quickly and the cooling systems to have to operate harder, which then maybe has removed some of the moisture from the air, and I might have to address that. So I'll pause there for any questions on that.
Nope, we're good.
Okay, so continuing on this capacity theme, I go to the dashboard, and what you always want is a dashboard that's highly user configurable, so you could easily just drag and drop and move the tiles around as you'd want to get the optimal view that you want. You could see that it self-adjusts. But then you want to make sure that you have coverage of all your resources, such as inventory, space, power, cooling, connectivity, change, as well as tabular reports. So let's go to inventory, for example. And so if I look at inventory as someone that's doing planning or engineering for the data center, I want to have a number of interactive widgets that allows me to look and say, give me some insight to the items I have. And so this chart here, I can look and say, give me a breakdown of all my assets by make. And I'll mouse over this, and it seems I'm an HP shop. I have 346 items that are manufactured by Hewlett-Packard, while my second biggest manufacturer is Cisco. So you easily can mouse over and get the exact readings. But let's say if I want to drill down and understand what about model, which of course there's going to be many more models. And so now I'm looking at a chart that's very busy, but still can look over and say my biggest model is the electrical outlet box, or I mouse over and see my next biggest model is a ProLiant DL360 G3, and I have 57 of those. And if I want to maximize this view, I just with one click make the chart a bigger view. I can also easily drag and drop and move tiles around to adjust the view that I want. If I want to bring up different views, such as items by age purchase. So a lot of customers look and say, how old are the assets in my environment?
James?
Yes.
We have a quick question. As far as the criteria or the parameters that are used to filter the data on that specific widget, are those defined in the system for you, or could users define them themselves?
We're pretty excited about what we've come up with. This dashboard is that based upon user feedback, customers have said they want a highly interactive dashboard that comes with some pre-configuration out of the box. So we've worked with many of our customers to define important KPIs about the data center. And so these widgets and their basic structure come out of the box. But you have the ability to adjust basic parameters, such as what site am I looking at? So for example, if I want to look at power, and I want to look at the power in my London data center, I have the ability to adjust the site I'm looking at, and I could look at the load of my London data center month over month. So I'm looking here at the load on October 7th is almost 4 kilowatts, and the load currently, so in November 7th, so a month later, calendar day on calendar day, is lower at 3.8 kilowatts. And if for some reason I want to then, have additional views, I have another widget here that I can adjust by period, adjust by granularity, and adjust by, if I want to look at average, maximum, or minimum. In addition, you have the ability to select a time frame and then drill down and focus into that time frame. So we describe them as highly interactive pre-built widgets where you have the ability to adjust in terms of layout, sizing, and basic parameters to get the views that you want. So back to space. I can look at my London data center and see, or go back to my Site A, where in my environment I know I have a lot of items, and I could look at some widgets such as cabinet space fragmentation. So the number of cabinets that have at least that have 10 open RUs is 42. So you see I have a lot of cabinets here that have limited available space, and I only have some that have about 10, I have 42 that have about 10 cabinet units. I can look at cooling. So we showed cooling in terms of whether I'm within my ASHRAE standards or hotspot formation, but now maybe I want to project temperature trends over time. So once again, our London data center is our best-in-class data center, and so I'm going to look at my London data center, and I'm going to look at temperature trends. And so here I have, period of time that I could specify, statistic that I could specify, granularity of the data, and I'm looking at temperature per sensors over time, and I could easily adjust which sensors I want to look at. If I double-click, I'm just going to look at this sensor. Or if I click, I go back and look at all. Or if I click once, I just remove that sensor. So this is where we call highly interactive, to allow you to see exactly what you want at a high level with the flexibility to drill down and get details. Many DCIMs don't fully cover connectivity. And connectivity, as you all know, is extremely important, because what good is deploying a server if you cannot power it in terms of power ports and cannot connect it to the internet in terms of data ports? And so when we look at different statistics that customers want, maybe it's data ports by type of port. And so here we have network ports and fiber. And so we have RJ45, we have 2,132 free ports and 1,330 connected ports. Change. Yep.
We have a quick question.
Okay.
The ASHRAE graph was in Power IQ, but these widgets are in DC Track. Where is the demarcation of reports graphs?
So Power IQ is our enterprise class polling engine, and so it's an easy, quick way to get started, and we consider that our DCIM monitoring component that goes out and collects the data. But if you are only interested in monitoring and you want a simple, easy-to-use solution and you don't have change management processes well-defined, then you could just leverage Power IQ and its view or UI. We are building out DC Track as our full DCIM operations view, and the data that I'm showing you here in terms of real-time power, real-time temperature, is coming from the data that's collected from Power IQ, but it's displayed on our single pane of glass as viewed in DC Track, which then marries in change, connectivity, and assets, giving you this single view. And so now as I click here, I click change, and I easily can see the top 10 changes in terms of makes and models. So it looks like Ortronics represents the make where I've made the most changes over the period of time.
James?
And yes.
A follow-up question to the previous question. Are the ASHRAE graphs available in DC Track now, or is that something planned for a future release?
That would be planned for the future release. So right now the ASHRAE chart is in the Power IQ GUI, but as you can see, we've made a major investment here to position and implement DC Track as the when someone wants a full solution, that includes add moves and changes. You make all your add moves and changes from DC Track, and you can do all your visualization from DC Track with the exception of the ASHRAE chart, and that will be migrated to this dashboard under the cooling tab in our first release next year. Okay?
Yep, thank you.
So we have a lot of customers that tell us, we love your UI design, we love your modern technology. This is all HTML5, leveraging Angular JS, so with responsive mobile design. So it displays on my laptop, which I'm using right now, as easily as it displays on my iPad or iPhone or Android device. But customers also say, we love the fact that Sunbird software has always been open, that a large number of our customers have, someone that can write scripts, someone that can write SQL queries, and in the past maybe wrote their SQL custom queries on something like Crystal Reports, Report Writer, and now in conjunction with our customers, we worked to create a programmable interface to our new single pane of glass dashboard. And so if I go up here, I have the ability to add a new SQL grid widget, and this new SQL grid widget allows me to, with simple SQL commands, create as many tabular reports as I want, leveraging the full system database. And so if I just mouse over this and open this up, you see this widget here. This is where you enter your SQL commands, save it, and then it produces the tabular report, and then it can be leveraged by all your users because that is now stored in this system, in this dashboard. And so this particular report is installed devices without connections to power. So when we polled our customers about what type of widgets, what type of KPIs you want, and we've done a lot of analysis, at the end of the day, there's a lot of KPIs and dashboards that were very consistent, and therefore then we built pre-configured widgets. But then they also said, you know what, every week, every month, something happens, and there's a new question that we need an answer for. And we know the data is in the system, and we have the ability to write the query if the data is exposed, and that's why we've developed this SQL widget.
James,
I'll pause there for any questions. Yep.
Okay, we have a quick question. If you don't have someone who can write SQL for you and yet you still would like to take advantage of these widgets, what options are available to you?
Yeah, so options are available range from our I'll start with our partners. Many of our partners have over the years developed custom reports for customers on Crystal Reports or other systems. So most of our partners have staff that have the ability that understand DC Track's open data model via our ODBC tables, and they can, for a fee, write those queries for you. Any other questions, Julia?
That's all for now. I would like to remind everyone we have about 10 minutes left in the webinar, so if you do have any questions, please feel free to submit them through the questions box in your GoToWebinar control panel, and we'll get to them at the Q&A session.
Okay, so I've covered capacity. So I have an at-a-glance view of the capacities, but yet I can drill down. I could decide to add an item, and it helps me find the capacities. I've gone through health, the ability to monitor all your parameters and have predefined views that tell you, am I healthy now? Am I healthy in the future? Now, the next one is asset search. So we have quick asset search, where we essentially expose or asset database in a Excel-like tabular, sortable, filterable view where you can easily select to decide what are the elements of the database that you want to expose on this table by class, such as cabinet, data port, device, floor PDU, network. And so when you select then the cabinets that you want, you can easily drag and drop columns to reorder them, what you want first, what you want next. And then you can sort and filter based upon any parameter. So here, let me clear this filter. But if I want to find all my devices, so previously we talked about Hewlett-Packard being my #1 make, and if I want to find all the devices that match Hewlett-Packard, and then maybe all the devices that are DL380, you can leverage multiple columns for search. You can then decide to export this data for further use or analysis, or as was previously asked, again, aligning with that idea that Excel is heavily used, you have the ability to easily import your data so you kind of understand the format, adjust your file, and then click the browser, upload it, and it'll process it and add it to the system. So finding assets in your data center, whether it's 50 cabinets or 1,000 cabinets, you want it to be browser-based, easily searchable, and find the information that you want, all the way down to easily, if I clear this filter, and I say, I want to find my device named Clarity, because I'm an individual user in India, and I come up and I see, here's my device Clarity. I have basic statistics. Where is it installed? What's its status? And I double-click, and then can have an at-a-glance view of the attributes of Clarity. And so I understand its make, its model, its class, its weight, its dimensions, its identity information such as name, type of device, function. So it could be grouped into functions. What is its location in terms of cabinet, U position? And then I have my front and back view of the cabinet with the ability to show text or images of that cabinet elevation. I can look at statistics about this device in terms of type of CPU, RAM, users, processors. I can look at asset information such as when does maintenance expire, when was it purchased. I can define as many custom fields as I'd like with the ability to click and launch. So if I have a KVM switch, I can click and launch to that. Or if I want the maintenance manuals on a SharePoint, I can click and access that. I can click and get information about the data ports and click and get the information about the power ports. I can look at what it's connected to and then easily with one click do a circuit trace of how this device is connected to the power chain with nice graphical images of the server power supply, so PS1, its load, what rack PDU it's connected to, what port, what breaker, what panel, all the way up to the UPS. And so with that, I'll pause for any final questions as we're running up to the top of the hour, and I want to be very respectful of everybody's time. Julie, are there any remaining questions?
Right, we have a couple. One is on integration with third-party systems. Is that difficult to achieve with DC Track and Power IQ?
Yeah, so we have a number of pre-built connectors. Our solution is vendor agnostic, so we support major manufacturers of data center equipment, including Schneider, Emerson, Geist, ServerTech. We also have pre-built connectors to BMC Remedy and ServiceNow, and we have open APIs, so open, RESTful, fully documented web services APIs where we guarantee backwards compatibility. So if you or one of our partners build a connector for you or modify a connector for you, you can rest assured that as it's designed to our open, fully documented API, we have a history of 8 years of not breaking integrations. And if that ever happens due to just an oversight or an error, it's our responsibility to remediate that within our API so that it does not impact you.
Our final question is, do you have any tips on how to get started?
Yeah, so on our website, we have a collection of information. So if you go to www.sunbirddcim.com, we have a lot of resources. So actually, Julia and Paula spend a lot of time working with our professional services team, our partners, and our customers to create educational material. And one of the things that I think is really valuable is they've created a number of educational ebooks that go on specific topics that customers have talked to us about. So, customers have said, how do I go about getting started? Do you have a buyer's guide for choosing and implementing a DCIM? And so we absolutely do. So I'd recommend, this was published in June of 2016, so I'd recommend that you go to our website and download this buyer's guide, and then also browse and see we have ebooks on moving to a co-location, how to prepare your CIO, 40 critical problems your DCIM solution can solve. So there's quite a bit of information here that you can leverage, all the way down to useful tips to budget for your DCIM project, and 10 key considerations for a successful DCIM project. So I invite you to download one or more of these ebooks, and as always, interact with Julia on ebooks that you might want, or just let her know how helpful this was or any tips you have for us, because we're always looking to get feedback from you to improve.
All right, thank you, James. For more information, to schedule a demo or to sign up for a test drive, you can visit info.sunbirddcim.com/AIT. Thank you again for attending, and special thanks again to AIT for the invitation, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you very much.